Hey, good morning, Year 11. It's Miss Payne. I'm sorry I'm poorly. I won't be able to be with you today, but I'm not going to miss this opportunity to teach you something. So bear with me. I'm sorry about my voice. Could you just please take a moment to jot down today's learning objective? Well, just title really. It's Banquo's Ghost, and in today's session, what you'll be doing is you'll be evaluating the events of Act 3. Scene 4, a really crucial scene, okay, so I want you to be focusing. This will probably take you more than one lesson, so if whoever's covering the lesson could just pause for a moment, give the opportunity to write this down. Okay, now as usual, we've got a bit of retrieval practice, seeing what you guys can remember. So question 1, how does Macbeth feel about kingship at this point in the play? What does Macbeth say that his mind is full of? And now fill in the blanks for me. Complete the quote. We have something, the something, not killed it. Who does Macbeth tell his wife to pay special regard to at the banquet? And why are the words barren and fruitless relevant to Macbeth's kingship and situation? So once again, if a cover teacher wouldn't mind pressing pause for me, remember Year 11 to please write down your answers in full sentences. Now, I'm hoping that you've got all 5 of these correct, so take a minute to go through these again with your cover teacher. I will be wanting to take the scores from you when I come back. It's important that you fill in any that you've missed. Now, as a little warm-up activity, if the retrieval quiz wasn't enough for you, I want you to think about these questions. So, what pressures does Macbeth face? Now, I'd like you to think of the play as a whole so far. You could maybe think about this from Act 1. How were his pressures perhaps different then? And think about now with kingship, what are his pressures like? I also want you to think about at this point, if you can, because you're set 1, can you link any of these pressures to key themes within the play? So pause, take a moment, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, now these are the little summary notes that I prepare for you. So go through them. I'm sure that your cover teacher won't mind reading them to save my voice. And then what I would like you to do, please, is I would like you to do your brilliant reading of the scene. You should all have annotated this. It was part of your homework. Lots of you haven't been doing your homework on time. I will be checking that you have done this when I return. So can you please just make sure that you are really getting through this in a way that you understand. This summary will help you. Take a moment, pause. Okay, now hopefully you're going to read this. I'm guessing that Emily will play Lady Macbeth. I certainly hope that you will, Emily. And then you're going to need to have a strong grasp of it. So enjoy and really perform this and amuse the teacher who's standing in front of you today. Right, so for this next part of the lesson, this will probably take the remainder of the time that we've got left. I'm going to get you to do some quotation explosions, which, as you can remember, are like those really posh mind maps. And I'm going to get you to select the top 5 quotations from this scene. And what I'd like you to do is to really zoom in on these, because when you did your health check, the thing that I'm noticing is that you guys are really going into very basic levels of detail. You're focusing on things like nouns. It's not good enough. We need to be making sure that we're taking some more risks with how we're analysing language. So you need to be zooming in on keywords and devices. And for successful annotation, you need to look at what is being used, what devices. Nouns are banned from this, okay? Unless there's something really earth-shatteringly amazing that you can say about it, I need you guys to be doing a bit more. You need to also think about why Shakespeare has used it. Remember, the focus is on him, the focus is on his language use. You also then need to think about the effect on the audience and also try to link to themes. Okay, themes are so relevant. Characters are inextricably linked to theme. And think about, how those connections really come through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate how detailed. I'd like to see these explosions, please. So I'm going to demonstrate this with a couple. Now, I'm not doing all of the work for you this morning. Obviously, if I was in class, I would just be writing these on the board and you guys would be doing the work. But, you know, at nearly 3 o'clock in the morning, this is the best I can come up with for you. So this is what I'd like you to do, okay? I'm going to put a couple of quotes up. I've started out some bits of analysis. Write the quotes in your book, and then I want you to finish the analyses that you see. Okay, here we go. So the first key quote that I think hugely relevant: thy bones marrowless, thy blood is cold. So at this point, Macbeth is describing the ghost. This is a very, very basic observation. You now need to decide by finishing the sentence. He is feeling how? Go. The next one I'd like you to look at, and this time I'm not going to pause, I'm going to go through them. I'll read through all of these and then I'll ask the teacher in the classroom to press pause for me, and then you guys can work your way around and just see what you can come up with. So the repetition of the plosive sound B creates the effect of what? How does the temperature of blood contrast with the ghost? And then I've got an observation here, okay? So it's kind of a summary. You're going to need to be doing this for your quotation explosions. Blood is associated with violence and murder, which shows that Macbeth cannot stop thinking about what he has done. So make sure that when you're doing your own quotation explosions, that you've got that nice little summary of what you think is the key element. So this whole idea of violence, think about this as some whole motif that's running through. You've got this idea of blood being connected with it. Okay, all right, take a pause, finish the sentences, get as much information out of this as you can. I would say to the teacher in the room, for a class like you, maybe 3 minutes. So here we go, on to the next one. Thou canst not say I did it, never shake thy gory locks at me. Now I've done more of the work for you here. There's just one question and one of these to finish. So I'm just summarising again really simply, starting on the top left. In this quote, Macbeth is addressing Banquo's ghost directly. And then we've got this idea about the adjective gory. What's it suggesting Banquo's hair is? Think about it. Try to link this to a motif. Think about the implications of this too. Macbeth is haunted by the violence of Banquo's murder. And let's have a look at this. Banquo's ghost is shaking his head at Macbeth in this quotation. Perhaps Banquo is shaking his head because... Answer that question for me, Year 11. Really think about that. Why has Shakespeare characterised him in this way? And then this is the big question for this point, okay? Thou canst not say I did it. So what does this tell us, the reader, the audience, about Macbeth and his guilt? Again, please press pause, okay? And give you another 3 to 5 minutes maximum for this one. Okay, now just before you go on to these questions, this might take you through to Tuesday's lesson. What I'm going to get you now to do is to finish off those quotation explosions first. I would take at least 3 more quotes. I'd like you to go through them in as much detail, focusing on the devices, especially that Shakespeare is using. Now, if you do get through that before the end of the lesson, these questions will take you some time. Now, I've put 15 minutes, but I would anticipate they will take a bit more. Now, I will expect you guys to be answering using point, evidence, explain, analyse. I really do need you to concentrate on making those very, very valid points, using relevant evidence from the scene, which will be nice and simple if you've done your homework and you have definitely annotated this scene. And I also want you to focus on identifying sophisticated devices that Shakespeare has used, okay? So work your way through, okay, nice and quickly, steadily though, making sure that detail is there. When you're ready to the supply teacher, I'd like you just to pause for me and let the students just get on with this. Now, if you do get to the end of the lesson, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to write yourselves a little exit ticket, because what we really do need to think about is the state of the Macbeth's relationship at this point in the play. Now, remember that I always talk about continuity and change, and you need to think about what has remained the same and what has altered since the exposition of the play. Think about the reasons for that. Make sure that you've got a very, very clear thesis statement that summarises your ideas in relation to this question. So I'm really sorry I couldn't be with you today. I'm sorry my voice is terrible and I'm not my bouncy and enthusiastic self. If I get a negative COVID test, I'll be back as soon as I can. But in the meantime, I will try to continue your learning and to make sure that it's as uninterrupted as possible. Okay, Year 11, take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.